Welcome back, golf fans. Chris here with Jägerbombs Fantasy Sports, bringing another DFS PGA game plan. This week, the PGA Tour closes out the Florida swing with a trip down to Palm Harbor Innisbrook Resort for the Valspar Championship. This week, we got the Copperhead course. We're coming off another incredible player championship that you just couldn't take your eyes off of. It looked like Ludwig Alberg was maybe on his way to taking that victory on Sunday, heading in with a nice lead on Sunday. He struggled, give that up. Then it looked like Matt Fitzpatrick was going to take it, playing very, very well from a ball striking standpoint all week. He gave it up near the end. It was Cam Young. They were going in tied. He birdied the 17th. Coming into hole 18, they were tied at minus 13. And we're just going to look at it here one more time. One of the best drives I think we're ever going to see. Let's look at it. Okay, 375 yards down. Um, just amazing. He ended up parring the hole while Fitzpatrick bogeyed the hole. So that led to a Cameron Young huge win, which was awesome to see him in the clutch. He put that ball in the water the day before on Saturday. So seeing him just step up and hit that 375-yard rocket to go ahead and put himself in excellent position to approach that green. Really put the pressure on Fitz, and as we talked about, Fitz bogeyed that hole. Cam Young won. So now we move on to the Valspar Championship. We don't have quite the field that we've seen recently. Now, with that said, we still have a pretty decent field here this week. We've got Xander Schauffele, we've got Victor Hovland, Akshay Bhatia, Matt Fitzpatrick, Justin Thomas, Patrick Cantley, Jordan Spieth, Brooks Koepka. So we still do have a pretty darn good field here to close out this Florida swing. We're going to go over that here shortly. We're going to end this video. We're going to talk about the course. We're going to talk about the weather. We're going to talk about what stats are meaningful here, which ones are going to lead us to picking the victor if we're betting, and into our DFS lineups, who's going to kind of stand out there as well. Now, my preview article is up over at fantraxhq.com. You're going to want to go over and have a look at that. Each week in the Attacking the Green article, I do just that. I look at the course, I look at some stats, and I look at some players, mostly from a betting perspective, who stand out to be on our bet card here. As you can see, I've got some names up here so far. We will talk about them as well. First of all, we are going to go over the course. So this week, like I said, we got the Copperhead course at the Innisbrook Resort. It is a par 71, 7,352 yards. Like all the other Florida courses, ball striking is absolutely paramount, just from what we see in terms of the course setup and how it plays out. It is top 10 in terms of average scoring, playing about three-quarters of a stroke over par on average over the last 5-6 years. As you can see, we're going to actually look at another video here, just looking at a few holes, and then we're going to go look at the snake pit, the closing holes, and just look at that difficulty. So as you can see here, first things first, we've got very narrow fairways like we've seen at all the other Florida courses. These fairways are on average, according to the tournament fact sheets, only 20 yards wide. That is the smallest, narrowest fairways on the PGA Tour. Obviously, like the other Florida courses, accuracy over distance is going to be key here. You got danger on the right here on hole 2 with water. We've got dog legs. The other thing that we see here at Innisbrook Copperhead course that we maybe didn't see at the other Florida courses, there's a lot of elevation changes. This hole is an absolute beast. We got water on both sides, very thin fairway leading up to the green. So again, what we're going to see because of this, automatically, kind of like last week, is a less than driver approach. Driving accuracy here, still, even with that lower driving distance average, because of the less than driver, what we see is a 4 or 5% below average driving accuracy rate. That in turn, with all the danger, the dog legs, the elevation, and everything else, also gives us a bottom 3 greens in regulation percentage, which is close to 10% lower than average as well. So ball striking is be paramount if you want to be up there on the top of the leaderboard. Also, just like we've seen in other, there's not as much water. I think water is only in play on 8 holes. There's 8 water hazards. It's in play on 9 holes. So we don't have golfers aren't going to have to worry about that as much. But one thing with a lower greens and regulation rate, we're obviously going to be looking for guys that are really good at scrambling around. Even the guys that are ball striking beautifully, still only hitting, let's say, 70% of the fairways, they're still going to need to be able to get up and down on those other holes, the most difficult holes in the course, to save par, even bogey at times, and just avoid those double bogeys or worse, which can really compound that scorecard and push you right down the leaderboard and out of contention. Before we head off this video, I just want to look at the famous Snake Pit here, hole 16, 17, and 18. Absolutely beast finish. One of the hardest finishes on the PGA Tour of any course. Starts out with number 16. Hole number 4, it's about 475 yards long. As you can see, it's a beast here. Water on the right, dog legs, short, small fairways. And depending on that pin location, you're going to see it on the back right on a lot of those holes. 17 is a long par 3, surrounded by bunkers. Again, pin location is going to be crazy to see where they put it on the weekend. You may even see it in the back left. Could be huge. And then the closing hole, number 18, par 4, long par 4. It moves uphill. We've got bunkers all the way along the sides, left and right, and huge bunkers right around the green as well. Absolutely beast mode there on this course. So it's very critical. As you can see here, also a very unique thing about the Copperhead course is it has 5 par 3s this week, all of them over 195 yards, and 4 of them over 200 yards. So those are beasts. Golfers most likely are going to be just looking to get par and get out of there on those holes. But I have raised par 3 scoring average a little bit in my model this week just because of that added par 3. Par 5 scoring, we got a couple long ones, 605 and 590. And then the par 4s, actually all 5 of the 9 of them, sorry, fall between 400 and 450 yards. So while you may think mid-iron approaches are going to, kind of be commanded there, I don't think that will be so much the case just because there's going to be a lot of that, like I said, less than driver. So we're going to see maybe 175 to 200, but this week we do see a large chunk of approach shots coming from 200 plus. So we're going to look at that as well this week. So before we get into the stats that matter and the players that we're looking for, let's have a peek at the weather. So this is via Wind Finder. I posted the link for that Wind Finder so we can update this as we head in to get closer to tee-off times. But right now, the initial weather report is showing winds pretty sustained, 13 to 15 mile an hour winds all day Thursday. A few gusts there in the morning, but I don't think the gusts are going to be that big of a deal. Low winds Friday morning, and then it kind of gets up into the low teens, up close to the low teens on Friday. So right now, we're going to look at some players that maybe stand out in terms of playing well I would call this moderate winds. High winds, we're kind of looking at like the 18, 20 mile an hour and above. So I don't think we're going to be looking at that kind of winds, but definitely be looking at some guys in the moderate winds who stands out maybe over the last 12, 24 rounds, that sort of thing. As we get into the weekend, a lot better weather up into the 70s in the afternoon. Winds sustained below 10, and the gusts just drop right off. So Saturday, Sunday is going to be beautiful. But like we always like in DFS, we love that sweat on Friday. And the wind here is going to definitely cause us some sweating for a lot of guys. We could see some variance here. We could see some top ownership guys fall. It's going to make for another interesting course. I love the Florida swing. It's sad that it's over, but like I said, we're moving into major season here right away, and the Masters is just around the corner. All right, so we'll jump into the cheat sheet. Main tab here. I've got the open odds from first thing Monday morning. I've updated those odds before the show here for Tuesday. Some guys that have maybe jumped up a little bit. We got Matt Fitzpatrick. We got a lot of guys that have dropped off. Ben Griffin's number was bet down, has fallen off. Fitzpatrick has been bet up a little bit. Sahith Theegala bet up here. Those are the guys in the top tier. Kopka and Connors, looks like some people are on them as well. But we want to look at, first of all, is some course history, and we're going to sort it by last 5 tournaments here. Obviously, Max Home's only got 1 start in the last 5. Missed cuts in 2019 and 15, but a 6th place finish in 2021. Hasn't played here over the last 4 years. So keep that in mind. Billy Horschel, 4th and 12th over the last 2 years. Xander, 12th, 5th, and 12th, 3 of the last 4 years. Brooks, the last time he played here was 2022. Came out with a tie for 12th there as well. Victor Hovland is the winner from last year. 33rd in 2022 and third in 2021. He also leads all golfers in strokes gained total over the last 5 years at this course as well. Makes a lot of sense. Came to that win, gained a ton of strokes last year. Corey Connors, 8th, 21st, 16th back in 2018. McCarty just got that one start, finished 16th. Seamus, top 10 last year with that T8, 26th in 2024. Justin Thomas played very well last week. He is fourth in strokes gained total here over the last 5 years. He's got 20 rounds in, as you can see. He's got three top tens in his last four, a runner-up finish in 2025, and a third place finish in 2022, and that 13th in 2021. So very good course history coming in. He had a rough go of it at Arnold Palmer, came back at the Players, finished eighth, looked very, very good, like I said. So he's someone that's definitely on the radar this week. Rio Hisatsune has played here twice, 33rd in 2024. Came out of the top five last year with that fourth place finish. Really like to see that. He's been solid all year as well. We'll get into that and some stats that he stands out in. Sahith Thagala, 36th last year, not so great, but he had the top 10 in 2022. A couple of 22nd place finishes for Jeremy Paul and Rasmus Nørgaard Peterson and their only trips here. And then kind of closing things out, we got Chandler Phillips, 42nd and third, coming in with some pretty terrible form. So I don't know if the course history is enough to sway me to put him in my, if we had like a Scotty Scheffler at 14,000 this week, I'd probably look at both Jeremy Paul and Chandler Phillips. So I don't think we need to go that way. I think we can build a little more balance this week, being that Scotty, Rory aren't in the field. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at that. Probably going to stay away from those low 6K range, but they're definitely some viable guys. Lucas Glover, it's been up and down with the form, but he's got 8th, 11th, 36th, 48th, 13th. So he's got some nice top 25 finishes in here, and his best performances at this course have been over the last 2 years. So that's nice to see there from him. So there's some course history, some guys that stand out there. We'll look at some current form coming in over the last 5 events, some guys that stand out. Of course, you got Akshay up there at the top. He's been playing very well, someone that we're going to want to pay attention to here this week. He at the Players, T13, just wasn't very good around the green. Or probably could have had that a little bit better because he gained almost 3 strokes ball striking. He won the Arnold Palmer with actually losing strokes on the ball striking, which was mostly because of the off the tee play. But he putted. His short game was absolutely amazing at the Arnold Palmer. Gained over 4 strokes there. He was 16th at the Genesis. He was 6th at Pebble Beach, 3rd at the Phoenix Open, and that's which is awesome to see because to start the year, he missed cuts at the American Express and Farmers Insurance Open. So he's been red hot since. So he's someone that we're going to want to be looking at. The stats check out as well. He does, there was some not great course history, 2019, 2023, but then 2024, he finished with 17th, coming in obviously with his best form into this event. So he's someone that's going to be on the radar at 10K, an upper tier play that I think makes a lot of sense. Then we got Bridgman, who's having one of the best starts to the season, coming off a T5 last week at the Players Championship, putted very, very well. Short game, as you can see here, if we look over, short game is key. He's number one in putting. He's number one in short game in this field. He's number one in putting on the tour, and the results are just coming for him. It's absolutely amazing to see. He missed his last cut in the fall at the RSM Classic. Came to the Sony Open, finished T4 for him, and then he went 13th at the American Express, 18th at the Phoenix Open, 8th at Pebble Beach. He won the Genesis, first ever career win. Followed that up with the T18 at the Arnold Palmer. Very, very tough events. We're talking Pebble Beach, Genesis, Arnold Palmer, and the Players all in a row, and he went 8th, 1st, 18th, and 5th. Absolutely love that. He looks like he's going to be a star on the PGA Tour. Someone that I'm definitely going to be on this week. Nikolai Hojgaard has fallen off a little bit, 24th, 27th over the last 2 weeks, but he popped to the 3rd and the 6th. He's one of the guys that is gaining strokes in every strokes gained category across the board so far this season, so very balanced. Also drives it over 314 yards average distance as well. Not as accurate, and I think that could maybe get him into trouble here. He's missed his only cut last year, 97. I think that accuracy has a lot to do with it. I'm more inclined to go to Matt Fitzpatrick at 9,800. He's coming off a T2. he's starting to trend big time with his form. As you can see here, he's gaining strokes in almost everything except for putting. Now, with that said, he is a good putter on Bermuda. Just want to find him now. He's good in the wind. And looking at some wind players, we talked about that as well. I'm just quickly going to go over that wind. We'll do that after we go over a few more of these players. So Matt Fitzpatrick coming in with his form. Arnold Palmer was pretty terrible. He lost about a stroke and a half ball striking, and that was coming after T24, T14, and a ninth place finish at the Phoenix Open. He's made all of his cuts so far this year, which is excellent to see. But he popped at the players last week. Like I said, he almost won going into that final hole. He would have forced a playoff had he just parred that hole, but he bogeyed and gave up the win to Cam Young. Either way, he gained 2 strokes ball striking. He gained 1.5 strokes short game. So that was excellent to see that short game is coming around a little bit more. He's number 1, as you can see in my model here. He is the most accurate driver of the golf ball in this field. So keep that in mind as well. Xander, most expensive golfer this week at 10.9. He's got top 10s in 2 of his last 4 events, third place last week, top 25s in 4 straight. He's another golfer gaining strokes in every strokes gained category across the board so far this season. We talked about Hisatsune here. Very good form. He had 3 straight top 10s a little bit earlier this year. Just give me a second here. That was the Farmers Insurance Open. He finished second, and then he was 10th at the at Phoenix Open, T8 at the Pebble Beach. There, he gained strokes in all categories in all 3 of those events. Fell off a little bit at the Genesis Invitational. The short game was absolutely terrible. Lost just slightly over 2 strokes around the green and putting combined in the short game. Came back with a T33 at the Arnold Palmer and then a T13 last week. Again, the putter's been letting him down. He's lost strokes in 3 straight events with the putter. So if he can get that putter back on, his ball striking, he's gained ball striking in 9 straight events, gained strokes ball striking. So if that ball striking stays, he's a definite fit here at this course. And if he can putt, he's going to contend probably near the top. And as you can see, the results, we talked about him in the course history section, 33rd and 4th in his 2 events here. So very good to see. All right, so we're going to move over and we're going to look at some of those key stats. Like I said, and like I keep preaching, ball striking, ball striking, ball striking. We're going to look at some of those guys that stand out in terms of ball striking and where they are in terms of off the tee and approach. So leading the way, we got Austin Smotherman, 1.64 strokes ball striking. Very good to see there with him. He's going to be someone that's on the radar. 7,400 is a great price for him. Going over, he's got 2 finishes here, 25th and 36th. So nothing that really stands out, but definitely above average for someone that's in the 7,400 range. And coming in with good form here, 13th and 2nd in 2 of his last 3 events. And then, yes, he stands out in ball striking. But a lot of these guys that you're going to see here in terms of this ball striking, which we love to see, it's always going to come down to their short game. As you can see, a lot of these guys with the short game, especially with the putter, are losing strokes on the season. The only guy in this top 10, 2 guys inside the top 10 are gaining strokes on putting are Hojgaard, Nikolai, and Schauffele are the only ones who aren't losing strokes putting, but also leading out the way in ball striking. So maybe a little bit more in terms of GPP plays for some of these guys, but I definitely like them. I talked about Fitzpatrick, how he's kind of trending up in terms of his putting lately. He's 3rd in ball striking in this field. And then another player I want to talk about who it's been a quick turnaround, in my opinion, coming from the back from the Live Tour is Brooks Koepka. Looked pretty terrible at the Farmers Insurance Open and the Phoenix Open. He was T56 at the Farmers, lost 2.5 strokes putting. At the Phoenix, he missed the cut. He lost 1.7 strokes putting. What stands out for him, however, is the ball striking has been near elite for him. As you can see, he is 2nd in this field at 1.26 strokes gained ball striking on the season over his 4 events. He turned it around, which is really nice to see once we got to the Florida swing. He was T9 at the Cognizant, gained 0.7 strokes putting, and then the Players Championship last week, T13, lost 0.28 strokes putting. So a lot better putting over the last 2 weeks for Brooks. So as long as that ball striking stays elite, I think he can become a contender again should he be able to drop some of those putts here this week. David Ford stands out. We haven't talked about him for a few weeks. Just under that 7K range. Johnny Kiefer, rookie there. The around the green, the short game just kind of has me away from him in terms of these difficult Florida courses where the greens and regulation rate is maybe a little bit low. If you're not absolutely elite ball striking or on with your approaches this week, which we're going to get into the 200 plus yard proximity bucket here next. You're looking at a tough week if you're not getting up and down. And of these guys that are leading the top 10 in ball striking, he is the second worst in terms of strokes gained around the green behind Michael Brennan. And then we've got closing out this ball striking here. We've got Hisatsune, Shoffley. They're both high up in my model this week because they both got form, they both got course history, and they both got stats models. So they're kind of checking all the boxes, those two guys. Then we got Pearson Coody, another guy who needs to putt better. And if he does, that ball striking should lead him to the short game in general. Same with Michael Brennan here. Kind of same story for both of them is elite ball striking, yet the short game around the green and putting has not been great at all. Corey Connors, no doubt, he stands out here. The putting has been a little bit better for him recently. Last week, let's just go have a look at it here. He gained 0.1 strokes putting last week, gained 0.13 at the Genesis. So two of his last three, he's gained strokes, which is nice to see, trending in the right direction. I'd like to see him gain a little bit more and just be a little bit better around the greens. And I think he can be up there again. He's been one of my favorite top 10, top 20 bets recently. Akshay Bhatia, he is right up there, led by the irons. His ball striking is primarily focused around his red hot irons, 0.79 in terms of the strokes gained approach, and he's got an amazing short game. So he just kind of touches everything across the board. Another reason why he's number 3 in my model. Bridgman, number 5 in the model, and then right in between them is Rasmus Højgaard and Max McGravy. All right, so after we look at that ball striking, I want to go have a look at. We'll look at strokes gained approach here overall, and then I'm just going to hide some columns because I want it side by side with the long iron approach numbers as well. So right at the top, Austin Smotherman. Actually, I want to go over and look at it this way. Strokes gained approach. We're going to go over to proximity ranges here as well. All right, so looking at overall strokes gained approach leaders and then looking at their proximity buckets, some of the guys that stand out in terms of the 175 to 200 and 200 plus here, which for right now, that's not in my model. It must have got erased before, but I'm going to have pretty heavy, probably 10% going into that proximity of 200 plus. Smotherman, 12th from the 175 to 200, and then 200 plus, he's both two are average in terms of this field. Brooks, been very good. Top 10 in approaches from 200 plus yards. Really good to see. David Ford, very troubling to see that 111th and only average in the 175 to 200. Batia, 39th and 11th. Nice to see. Zeshan Dow, 35 and 28th. Matt Fitzpatrick, maybe a little troubling from the 175 to 200, but he's very accurate, like we talked about, coming from the fairway. He's going to have some longer because he's not as long off the tee. It's good to see he's top 20 in proximity from 200 plus. Victor Hovland, excellent from both. So if he's hitting fairways, look out. Hovland's going to have a lot of chances for birdie this week. Shoffley, top 30 in both. And let's now just go ahead and sort by proximity by 200 plus. And what we see here is not all these guys are tops in strokes gained approach overall, like Jimmy Stanger, very good from 200 plus, but pretty much terrible from everywhere else. Same with Neergaard Peterson. Nikolai Højgaard, nice to see, top 5 here. 8th in strokes gained approach. Michael Brennan is 5th in 200 plus, 26th in strokes gained approach. Brooks 2nd in approach, 7th in 200 plus. Rasmus Højgaard 10th in 200 plus, 13th. Alex Smalley 11th, and then 30th in overall strokes gained approach. Dan Brown 13th and 37th. And then down here, Nick Taylor stands out, 16th and 30th. Matt Fitzpatrick, 17th and 6th. Xander Schauffele. Mac Meisner is someone who is actually seeing his number jump a heck of a lot from his opening plus 7,500. He's now down to plus 5,500. So he's got bet up quite a bit at that initial number, and he's back down there. So 7,400 definitely stands out just based on the approaches alone. Now, We'll open that back up again. We want guys that are. We talked about short game, so let's have a look at the short game leaders here and looking at around the green as well as putting. Bo Hostler, number 2 in short game. He is first in around the green and 11th in putting. Um, Other guys that stand out in both categories, we've got Kevin Streelman, 10th and 13th. And then we've got David Lipsky, Akshay Bhatia, Bazudenhout, I don't know how to say it. Seth Tagala, 8th, 9th around the green, 8th short game, 24th in putting. Kevin Roy is top 20 in both, 9th best short game here. And then tied for 11th, we've got Jordan Spieth and Ben Griffin, 26th, 19th, 4th and 32nd, guys that we maybe want to look at there as well. All right, and then par 3 scoring, I talked about there's 5 par 3s on this course. So I want to quickly just have a peek at the guys that are best in par 3 scoring, can maybe gain themselves an advantage here. So we'll just look at the top 10. Blades Brown, very small sample size. We've got Steven Yeager, Patrick Rogers, Taylor Moore has been a very good value play lately. Austin Smotherman keeps showing up on a lot of these that I keep sorting top 10 of all the main stats. He's someone that's going to be definitely in my player pool this week at 7,400. Nikolai Hojgaard, Max Gracerman, Pearson Coutier all tied for 6th. We've got Seamus Power 9th, and then tied for 10th, we've got Nick Taylor, Victor Hovland, Tony Finau, and Ryo Hisatsune in that par 3. So there's a lot of guys that were standing out in the ball striking, in the around the green, in the proximity buckets, who are also standing out in par 3 scoring. Those guys could definitely gain themselves an advantage. If you can go -1 even, par's going to be a good score on these long par 5s. If you can go -1 for the day, even -2, -3 for the tournament on the 20 par 3s that are out there this week, you are going to be sitting very nice up that leaderboard come Sunday. So that's a place you can definitely take advantage. And then bogey avoidance is going to be big this week. You're not going to want to be doing those, like I said, saving par and even bogey at times is going to be huge, and you're not going to be wanting to giving up that double bogey or worse. So bogey avoidance, Nick Taylor, Chris Ventura, Blades Brown. We got Hojgaard, Jacob Bridgman. Love to see that. He's number 1 in birdie or better and 3rd in bogey avoidance. Kind of Blades Brown, number 2 in birdie or better, 3rd in bogey avoidance. So are you playing Blades Brown again this week? I'm definitely considering him. Probably more of a GPP play. Other guys that stand out in both, Austin Smotherman. There he is again. Hisatsune, again, standing out. So something I'm going to be doing on the sheet going further and into these videos, something that we will break down, is I'm going to put all these stats that are key for me, 4 or 5 stats each week that are key. I'm going to kind of print off and not print off, but I'm going to have a separate tab, and I'm going to kind of count of those players, say that are in the top 20, how many players stand out in the top 20 of all those stats that I listed, how many stand out in the top 10, and kind of narrow it down that way. And those are guys that probably should have in your player pool each and every week. Something I'm going to add to the show. If that helps, definitely let me know in the comments if that's something that you think would help you. Something that even if you're not watching the show and you're just in chat and you're just looking at the spreadsheet, is that going to help you just kind of narrow down your player pool each and every week? If so, let me know, and we will definitely add that for you. One more thing I want to look at, like I said, we got some moderate winds, especially on Thursday. So more specifically for round 1 showdown, I think guys that stand out, strokes gained tee to green. We're going to just look at the top 10. Now, I don't have any stats for wind myself on the sheets or in our content. I definitely head over to betspurtsgolf.com. Absolutely amazing, their rabbit hole. If you want to go check that out, it is definitely worth having a subscription there. Don't usually pump up other sites, but it is absolutely insane. I wish I had the resources to put something like this together. So on their site, looking at the top 10, strokes gained tee to green in that wind, looking at about 12 to 17 mile an hour range, kind of over the last 12 rounds on those conditions. We've got Matt Fitzpatrick, Austin Smotherman, Xander Schauffele, Taylor Pendrith, who also, of those guys, Taylor Pendrith stands out a little bit to me. Just looking at, he's gained in 11 of his last 12 rounds, strokes gained tee to green and win. So definitely consider him. Hisatsune McGreevy, Max Homa, Aaron Rai, John Parry, and Akshay Bhatia. Again, more players that are grouping together that stand out in multiple, and I'm talking multiple, 4 or 5 different of the key stats that I'm looking at. A lot of these guys are standing out in the same one. So definitely guys to consider. Now, if you're new to the sheet, you want a copy of the sheet, you want to get in and look at our playbook, which is coming up here later today. I'm going to start putting in my top 5 in each tier, DK Core, DK GPP Core, FanDuel Core for this week, my Pick 6 plays, my Showdown plays, my betting and props, which again, we talked about. I haven't added it to the sheet yet, but it's going to be centered around Matt Fitzpatrick, which was crazy. He started out at a plus 2,000 when I first loaded the odds. By the time I got the article done later in the day, he was already down to plus 1,600. But I definitely like that, backing him up with the top 5, which is very similar to what you see with an each way, but DraftKings Sportsbook doesn't have that each way. So I just like to add a top 5 to those higher bets. And then as we get down the odds board, like um, Justin Thomas is a plus 290 top 10. That's kind of the way I'm playing my each way with him. Same with the Gala, plus 3,700 outright, plus 385 top 10, plus 176 top 20. I like all of those. A little bit of a ladder bet there with the Gala. Jacob Bridgman, hard to stay off him this week, plus 23 outright. That number is probably going to rise even down to plus 2,000 by the time. So I definitely like getting this article out on Monday, even posting my bet information and my early bets in chat on Monday before the numbers and before things really start getting better. Because if you can bet a guy at, say, plus 2,200 and he gets down to plus 1,600 within like 8 hours, you're getting a lot of value there. That you're probably going to want. Is he going to win? Not necessarily, but you're at least ahead of the curve in terms of where that sports book has whatever sports book you're using has that initial number, and then people see that number, bet it down. That number, obviously, they drop that down. So those will be listed here, all my betting and props. If you want this information, you want all the information and tools that we have on our PGA spreadsheet, what you can do is head over to www.patreon.com/JagerBombs and grab a PGA package for just 15 bucks a month. We cover PGA. Sometimes we get Snods when he has time in chat. He'll put up a DP World Tour sheet, Live Golf sheet we have up in there as well. If you are playing multiple sports, maybe grab that all sports package for $25 a month. We're currently covering 10 plus sports. We got golf, we got NASCAR, all 3 series. We got MLB coming up. March Madness is starting. We cover college basketball or college football, NHL, NBA, tennis, UFC, EPL soccer. We've got spreadsheets for all of them. We've got Discord chat. We've got injury updates. We've got stats analysis. You name it. It's an excellent value. That's patreon.com/JagerBombs and grab that package today. Thanks for tuning in to another DFS PGA game plan for the Valspar Championship, and we'll see you next week.